Today is, oops, sorry, today is 31 October, Halloween, 2009. Happy Halloween. And we're interviewing Mr. Hilty from Ohio. We're at the Hyatt Regency Hotel. It's 5 minutes after 7 p.m. Mr. Hilty, thank you very much for consenting for the interview. Let's start off with, and I forgot to do this in the last one, the crew. Laura Shigemitsu is doing the audio and cataloging. Lisa Sueki is video, Russell Nakaishi interviewing, and Joe's lovely wife, Janet, Helen or Janet, is observing. Mr. Hilty, let's start off the interview by having you tell us your full name, date of birth, and place of birth.
This is Joe C. Hilty, Allen County, Ohio, 11/19/24.
Your middle name, what does the C stand for?
Carlton, from my uncle, Carl.
Did you ever have a nickname?
Cassie, in school.
How about during in the military?
No, not really.
Could you tell us, let's start off with your family life. Can you tell us a little bit about your father?
Oh, well, my dad was had a meat market. He butchered his own meat. I grew up in that. I could make a change before I went to school.
What was your father like as a person?
He's quite a fisherman and liked hunting. Other than that, he worked all the time.
What was your father's name?
It's kind of different. Christian Levi Hilty.
Tell us about your mother.
Oh, she was fairly quiet. Absolutely wouldn't want a picture taken of herself. We had to trick her into taking a picture. But other than that, she was always there for you. And like my wife always says, I walk straight, and she'd always get back at me and pull my shoulders and say, straighten up, throw them shoulders back. Because of her, I probably do that.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have a brother and two sisters. They're both all three deceased. All died of cancer.
What was home life like with your parents and all the children, your brothers and sisters?
Oh, it was great. We had always had a dog around. Had our own pony, buggy, sleigh. Summertime, we'd go out along the road when they mowed the hay, they wouldn't dare to pick up now. And we'd pick that up and take it home and put it up for the winter.
What would you use the hay for in the wintertime?
To feed the pony. Yeah.
Can you tell us about some of the chores you did at home?
Mowed the yard, helped with the garden, and like I say, helped in the store. I could wait on trade before I went to school.
What were some of your tasks at the besides the was it waiting on the customers? What else did you do at your father's butcher shop?
Oh, when he butchered, I helped him. I carried water, cleaned the floor up after he was done.
How old were you when you did those things?
Oh, probably started at 4 or 5 years old. That was just our jobs. Everybody had a job. A different era then.
As you were growing up, can you recall any instances where you dealt with family discipline or something your father or your mother had to instill into you?
Not really. None of us kids. I don't think any of us ever got in trouble. Probably the most trouble I got into, like Halloween night, upset a flower pot. Somebody didn't like that, but other than that, it could have been worse than that.
What kind of, can you tell us stories about your interaction with your mother? Anything you learned from her experience-wise, or any kind of story you'd like to share about your mother?
Well, like I was saying a while ago, the main thing was straighten up and throw them shoulders back. That is the one I remember the most, I'm sure.
Tell us about some of the playtime activities, recreational activities that you did when you were young.
Well, back then you made a lot of your own. Like in the wintertime, we had there was called the Miami and Erie Canal. It was hand dug from Toledo, Ohio, or from Cincinnati to Toledo. And when it was froze, we skated and played on that. In wintertime, you had games, you play in the snow. Summertime, I guess I kind of lived along that canal fishing when I wasn't working.
What kind of fish did you
Just
catch?
junk fish. I wouldn't eat them, but you catch them.
What kind of fishing gear did you have at the time?
Back then, probably a cane pole, if you know what I mean by cane. Cane pole, just a straight pole, 10, 12 feet long. No reel on it, just a line.
Were you still able to catch fish with that?
Oh yeah, sure. I haven't been fishing since last week.
What is your favorite fish to catch?
Walleye or freshwater perch. That's my two favorite to eat.
I think I ran into that when we were in Minnesota.
Yeah, they're good. Never fishy.
How was as you were growing up, how was your neighborhood like? Neighborhood kids, things like that?
Oh, we had from some very poor kids on, but then seen a lot of times we had neighbor kids that their dad died of a heart attack like 1933 or 4. There was no help then. We'd go hunting, and they would be the dogs in between us, and we'd share half with them what we got. And they were happy because they have something to eat. That's all they had.
Do you remember some of the names of your childhood friends?
Well, yeah. Had old Stanley Rockhold, the Johnson boys, Harold, Lee, and Howard. That was the ones that had their dad had died with a heart attack.
Did any of them enter the service during the war?
Yeah, 2 of them did. They're all dead. I'm just being stubborn.
What was your early education like? Public school education.
Well, I was kind of different. I had, you ever hear of tonsillitis? I had that between the 6th and 7th grade. I finally had my tonsils taken out. I went to school, probably fever about every day. And between 6th and 7th, when I got out of the 6th grade, I weighed 56 pounds. By the time I was a freshman, I weighed 125. There's just that much poison in my system, I guess.
In your elementary school school subjects, what was your favorite one? Favorite school subject?
I really didn't like school that well back then. But I would say probably Arithmetic and a little English, yeah.
Did you learn how to speak another language?
No, see, I could say it was predominantly German in our area.
As you, in grade school, did you have any single individual or individuals that may have had an impact on you when you for your life?
No, not really. I started playing in the band when I was about the 4th, 5th grade. But they had a town band before they had a school band.
What instrument did you play?
Trumpet, violin. Played trumpet in the marching band and violin in the orchestra.
Where do you learn how to play the violin?
Well, this is in the family. About everybody in the family played something. I mean, us kids. I played trumpet, violin. My older sister played baritone and a violin. My brother played a flute and a piccolo. And I'm trying to think of what Sue play. Seen pictures of her. Baritone, I guess.
Did you all play together at occasions?
No. In school, I had a sextet that I was kind of in charge of, and that would see me a trumpet and a baritone, trombone, tuba. We go around different contests. Never won any.
You're very talented playing all the different music instruments. Did your parents stress music as part of your family?
Yeah, it was very important. I'm sure they let us go, or so that we had music when they couldn't afford it. But I'm sure it was every bit as bad back then as it is for a lot of people now.
Your family having a business, how was that? Was there any effect on that business because of the Depression?
Oh, I'm sure. Back then, our little town, I'd hate to see how many stores in it. Now there's two. Now there's two.
Tell us about family life. Maybe starting off with what kind of foods did you eat when you were growing up?
Well, when you had a store, when it got so old, then that was it. But Mom could take stuff and make it taste good when it was borderline of keeping. Either that or throw it away.
What is your favorite dish?
Back then, it's hard for me. I didn't want to eat anything because of my tonsillitis. Probably corn on the cob, hominy. Did you ever hear of hominy? Meatloaf, stuff like that.
You mentioned earlier you made your own toys or recreational equipment. What other things did you make?
Oh, this is really different. There was a place in town that had a hatchery. Now, I lived in a little village, you'd call it, you guys. And there was a hatchery there, and when most of the chicks hatched, they had them, and the rest they threw in a barrel. And I looking at it, if some was still going to make it, I'd take them home and raise them. I'd make the feeders for them and the waterers. There was a lumber shed real close to home, and I go down and get in the scrap box and get stuff to make a feeder or water out of.
Where did you, going back to your education again, where was the school that you went to? What was the name of the school?
Same town I live in, Spencerville. And they had one that you go 6 grades, and then you move over and get the other 6 that they called the high school. And when I got in the 7th grade, they had on to high school, so from the 7th grade on through high school, you went half one, half the other.
In Spencerville, were there any community activities that you or your family were involved in?
There wasn't much, no. See, I'm just talking a little. You hardly call it a village, a couple thousand people. See, that's hardly anything.
Was your family involved in the church activities?
Oh, yeah, we all went to church. My dad was on the school board. He went to the 8th grade. He was on the school board. He can figure. Didn't have to use the pencil much. Or now some of these kids now, if they didn't have the computer, they couldn't add or divide, subtract, you name it. It's a different era.
It seems your family was somewhat self-sufficient.
Oh, yeah, sure. I wouldn't worry about taking care of us now. With nothing. Ask my wife.
Okay. Anything else over for the childhood area? Okay. We'll be moving on to as you're growing up, so we're going to advance a couple more years. Okay, go ahead. What year did you graduate from high school?
1942.
Well, you're still in high school when the war started then.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about, if you can recall for us, what was it like on December 7th? Do you remember?
Oh, I had down there, we were eating dinner at home. And we heard it on the radio.
Do you remember any reaction your parents had to that?
Well, I don't know. My brother was in the National Guard. He was going to college, so he knew he'd go. And he did. But,
anything your parents talked about?
Not really, no.
What was your reaction to the country going?
Well, I didn't think that much about it because I figured it'd be over in a short time. And it wasn't.
When did you first think about entering the service?
Oh, when I got 18. There was 5 of us guys that ran around together, all joined our voluntary induction, went over and signed our voluntary induction so we could go faster. That's the way it was then.
What made you? What was your motivation? What made you all decide to all go at once?
Oh, that's just the way it was then.
Did your parents have anything to say when you told them?
No. Nope, that was it.
Getting ready for induction, what kind of preparation did you have to make before you went to the Army?
Oh, nothing really. It's just you got a notice and you went.
What was that first? What was the induction like for you? The first day?
Oh, I was dumb and volunteered for KP.
Did you know what that was?
Not really. I found out in a hurry.
Did you volunteer after that again?
No. What I remembered the most is the first weekend we passed inspection. Now I had $100 with me, which was a lot of money back then. And by the time we got ready to go home, I didn't have any money because we got in a blackjack game. I got the deal, and all I could get was an ace or a face card and a 2 or 3. I had to hit, and I'd always hit an ace or a face card. In no time at all, I was broke. And no, I've never gambled big since. I'll play for fun, but or a little bit.
When you first went into the service, did you those other 4 of your friends, did they all end up in the same unit with you?
No, they all went to Marine, sent me to the Army.
What made you decide to go to the Army versus?
They sent me to the Army. Yeah, because I've heard different guys. They go up. We had a place called Camp Perry, Ohio, is up around Toledo, and they might. I've heard different ones say, "You, and you are going to the Air Force. You, and you is going to the Marines." You went.
Luck of the draw, in other words. Do you know what happened to your other friends?
They're all gone. Yeah. Classmates.
Did they survive the war?
Yep. We're real fortunate about it. Everybody in my class went, and I don't think we lost one. Which is real fortunate.
Where did you take your basic training?
Camp Blanding, Florida. And then from there I moved to Camp Van Dorn, Mississippi.
What was that like to suddenly be in the South?
I didn't think anything of it because I went to Mississippi. I mean, to Florida first. I really went to Camp Gruber, Oklahoma. We were only there 2 weeks. And then they sent us by train through Chicago to Camp Blanding, Florida. I forget how many days that took.
That's a circuitous route there. What is your best recollection from basic training?
If you want me to be real honest about it, as far as handling a gun, I hunted all my life. I went in the band first. So you had close order drill. Probably a half a mile from our barracks was an obstacle course, and we ran that 2 and 3 times a week. And I didn't realize, but when I went in April. I was in the band until January of 44, April of 43. And the strength of the band was 56 men, and I was the 66th one in it. So they knew they were going to have an invasion in Europe, and they knew they were going to lose a lot of men. So any place that had overstrength in them went into the infantry. So and I didn't have any trouble there. In fact, the first day in the infantry was a 25-mile force hike. I got by better than some of the guys that been there for 2, 3, 4 months.
When you were in basic, did you have a chance to write home?
Oh yeah.
What kind of
I come home several times.
what did you write home about?
Just to get another letter back. Really.
And did you receive a letter back?
Oh yeah. If you didn't write, you didn't receive.
What kind of letters? What was in the letters that you got from home?
I probably brought some. Oh, that was what they were doing. Usually my folks or something like that, and just what they were doing. And
What was the feeling like in the replacement training centers at the time you were going through it?
Well, I remember when I first went into the infantry from the band, they had some guys in there that were hurt. They were in pre-flight, and they knew what was going on, and they knew the war was, before they would get through all their training, it would be over. So they put them in the infantry. I mean, that was a low blow.
A lot of in the replacement training center, then there were a lot of soldiers that were pulled from different areas.
Oh yeah, just had to get infantry.
What was the worst thing you did in basic training?
The worst thing I'd done in basic training. Oh, probably I was up at Fort Meade, Maryland, went into Baltimore, and I've never told this to many people, but there was a corporal there. I was in a USO, just have something to do and dance. And he came in and said, "You're in my company, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm getting married and I need a best man." It was a Polish wedding. And that was Saturday. And that lasted Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, and all day Sunday. I was really AWOL. And that was really a no-no. And he said, don't worry about it. And Monday morning I went before the CEO because I was AWOL and I was in bad trouble. And he walked. "Captain," he stood up for me. Okay? He scolded me a little bit, and that was it. They were in the Rangers in Italy, and you ought to have seen him take a shower. He had bayonet wounds and even bullet holes in him, and he survived. And this captain and the first sergeant and him were all together in that Ranger outfit. And so I lucked out because I'd been bad trouble.
It was more like a misunderstanding almost.
No. He told me, don't worry. When he took care of me.
What was your trip over to overseas like when you left the States?
Oh, that's another thing I've never forgot. I left out of New York City, and the captain of the boat said, now hear this. There's the Statue of Liberty. Look at her, because some of you will never see her again. And I thought about that a lot of times. A lot of them didn't.
That's kind of an unusual thing for him to say.
Well, he was being honest about it. And then we had sub scares on the way over, and I ended up and landed at Naples, Italy.
How did you fare on the ship? Did you get sick?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. You go down to eat, and just get settled down and have your mind made up you're going to eat, and about 3 or 4 guys sew up at the same time, you quit. And you get out there.
You landed in Naples. What was your impression of that area when you got there?
Oh, I thought it was kind of dirty and very poor. I went to they call it I went blank. It's a big replacement center. They call it the dairy farm. They figured there was probably 100,000 guys there for replacements in any place they need them. They just come morning and they'd say, the first 10 guys follow me, and you went someplace, some division to replace some that are wounded or killed.
And how long did it take for you to to be picked as a replacement?
That was from June till probably September.
In that period of time, what did you do?
No, done a little drilling and found ways to slip into town. Went into Santa Maria and Caserta, was the name of the little towns.
Did you have a chance to interact with the Italians when you're there?
Not much, The only thing I always remembered, I wanted to drink a water so bad, because there you went into a restaurant and all they had was wine. And I picked some Italian guy to go to town with one day. He could speak fluent Italian, and said, I want to drink water if I had to pay for it. She said, you would get sick if you drink our water. That's the reason you drank wine. It wasn't safe.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Did you ever get the drink of water eventually?
Well, you put our pills in it.
How did you clean the water? What kind of pills were they?
What in the world was that? Adarin or something like that? You can dip some water out of a water puddle and put a pill in. It was safe to drink.
Interesting. When did you? How were you picked for the 36th Division?
Just as a replacement. Yeah. I went to landed at Marseille. Well, you would dock way out, and then they'd bring little boats in. You go over the side, and they take you in because they didn't have it cleared to the docks yet from the landings. Then from there on, I went up and joined the outfit.
Where did they assign you in the 36th Division?
I mean, what do you mean? Where
which company?
Company A.
Were you assigned to which platoon and squad were you assigned to? Do you recall?
No, that I've thought and I can't remember. All I know is I've got right here in my little book I carried through with me. When I first joined, we were in a corn crib, and I passed this around. The guy signed their name, and I took that clear through with me, never lost it. And I showed it to who? Trees. Yeah.
What was that book you just peeked out there?
Oh, it's an address book, all my old girlfriends, and then here in the back, I have the name and addresses of everybody's in my squad.
Oh, could you read that entry for us?
Well, you don't want to know all those girls' names because they're too old now. You wouldn't even look at them. Oh, wait till I get to it here. Okay, Sergeant Edward Bailey and Kenneth Blue, Lawrence Hester, and William Cicchino, he's probably Italian, and Jim Hockett. Now this is all, the first one was from Kansas, the Kenneth Blue. Called him the other night, he's from Marion, Illinois. The next guy is from Fountainhead, Tennessee. And the next one is from Newark, New Jersey. The next one is from Salanta, Kansas. And the next one is Arthur G. Hill from Kansas City, Missouri. And the next one is Bob Kochen from Lafayette, Georgia. And the next one is Anthony Chillis from Ashland, Pennsylvania. And another one was William Short from Girard, Ohio. And then the next one was Harry Hook from Fleetwood, Pennsylvania. And they all wrote their names down there, and I never lost it.
And that's amazing, given your experiences that came after you joined.
I wouldn't remember any of them, see.
What was it like joining the unit as a replacement? What did that feel like when you got to them?
Well, I was finally at where I was going to be. Really, yeah.
What did the unit do to prepare you for combat?
Well, our squad leader, he talked to you and have you out. We was in this small town, and there was a dump there, and he wanted you shooting the stuff and hitting it.
So he helped, he trained you?
Yeah, a little bit there, yeah.
About what time was this that you joined the 36th?
I never wrote the date down, but it was just a few weeks before this happened.
Now we come to the period of time where the 1st Battalion was in the Battle of the Vosges Forest. Can you tell us about that battle?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you before we get to that, I want to tell you one I've never forgot. I've told my wife more than once. I was telling a couple of the guys a while ago, when we were going up and they were coming back, the 442nd guys, and I saw one young guy there, and he was unhappy. You could see a tear a little bit coming out of his eyes, and this I've never forgot. I said, "Well, what, your girlfriend dump you?" "No," he said, "just look at it. They just locked my mom and dad up, and I'm an American fighting for America." And tears just rolled out of his eyes. You know, I've never forgot that.
And it was what was your reaction when he told you that?
Well, I made you feel. I could feel it because at home they didn't lock them up, but like I say, it was predominantly German, and any ones that correspond with anybody in Germany, boy, they were really watched close.
That brought it home to you.
Yeah, but see, of course, as far as any Oriental people, we hardly ever saw a colored person where I lived.
Was that your first interaction with the Nisei soldiers?
Yeah, oh yeah. But they were well thought of, any of the guys.
What was the Vosges Forest battle like? What was the fight?
Well, you was just in a forest going up a little path and till you got into it. Then we got surrounded. Probably what bothered me the most when I was there is it just seemed like it did stop. It didn't seem like it hardly ever stopped. It was 80 and mortars coming in all the time. And somebody get hit and they would scream for help, but there wasn't any medication for them. You'd hear them scream and scream and scream until it got quieter and quieter and quieter, and finally you didn't hear anything. So did they die or what? You don't know. I'm sure some did, because that's what they were trying to drop supplies to us, food and medication, I'm sure, and ammunition, because the ammunition was mighty, mighty short.
When did you were with the 1st Battalion when they were encircled?
Yeah, oh yeah.
What was...
I went on patrol. It must have been at least the 3rd day when I was out on patrol and got captured. It had to be more than that, but because I know I was on 2 night patrols, and the one I got captured on was in the daytime. They'd always just ask for volunteers and never had any trouble getting volunteers in.
Those patrols were to... What were the reasons?
Find food, water, anything like that.
You mentioned you were captured on the 3rd day.
I don't know where the 3rd day, I'm not sure. Seemed like forever, believe me.
Can you tell us that experience? Would you be able to share with us that experience?
That was about my worst experience because they were mad. And I still am not sure how many was on that patrol, but we had to get down on our hands and knees and put our hand back for our head. And if you look like this, he'd just come, that guy was wild, he'd just come over and shoot him in the back of the head. And he just hollered and screamed in German, which we didn't know what they were saying. And he got the guy's side of me, and this, I still see at night sometimes, an officer with real shiny boots came up, and they argued a little bit, and it stopped. So I always told my wife, somebody upstairs stopped right there, so I'd have to argue with her.
Were the Germans killing the prisoners?
Oh yeah, just shoot them back ahead. And go to the next. They got right side of me and quit. So you wonder why. That was my scary time.
How did the capture, or how did you end up being captured? What was that?
Well, there was a place. They had a woods, and there was another wood, say maybe a block across, where it was real dense. Other than that, it was kind of sparse. And should we go across or not? And we got about in the middle of it, and we was in the wrong place.
Once the officer came and stopped them from shooting any more prisoners, what happened to you next?
Oh, we walked and walked. I remember the first water we had. I know that was kind of different too. I think they were down there relieving themselves, but we still wanted to drink, and we drank her because we hadn't had anything to drink for days, you know. And then we walked and walked, and I think the first food we had, I can still remember that we were out in nowhere. You didn't even see a house. They got a map out and got their shovels out and dug over here in this corner and brought out bread. Had it buried. That's where the black German bread they talk about with sawdust in it. Tasted good. And you used to get a small loaf of that bread, and that was for a week.
How did you? What happened next after that?
Well, it was. Let's see, my birthday was on the 19th. Sometime after the 19th, I ended up in the Stalag 7A.
What was? Yeah. Can you describe for us what Stalag 7A was?
That was in Moosburg, Germany, and it was no, there was a lot of English there also. That some of them were captured in North Africa. And there's a lot of different things to go. There was officers there. A couple of times I took rations to the officers, and if you were willing, they'd trade places with you. And they said in 2 minutes, you could be me and I could be you. So they get out. You'd switch dog tags and everything. But they were a thing because when it got warm, I'd have got out of there because I worked in Munich every day. And there wasn't hardly any time you couldn't get away from the guards. But your choice of getting away was to go to Switzerland. And you don't go to Switzerland in the wintertime through the mountains because you won't make it. You'd freeze to death.
What was the food like in that?
Well, for breakfast is some watery tea, and then if you worked in town, you got a bowl of soup of some kind. That was it. They didn't have it, really. I don't think they had that much either.
How were you treated by the German guards?
The older ones were the meanest. But then also some of them, I'm sure, had a good heart too, because we had a guard. He had to be probably 70 years old, and it was always good Morgan, you know, and real Dutchy. And one morning he was crying, and one of the guys could speak German. Asked him, "Charlie, what's the matter?" He just got word his last 2 sons were killed on the Russian front. He lost 5 sons, all of them. So see, that's the way it was.
Well, what was it like going into Munich?
Well, it was we got bombed a lot, because the Americans would bomb in the daytime. English would bomb at night, and you never knew when they was going to drop bombs.
So your own side's bombing you?
Oh yeah, you just have to hope then.
How did the German civilians treat you as a POW?
Well, some of them they might look a little bit at you, and then others were bitter because as another close call I had, we got down to air raid shelter one time, and some gal there had some warm cookies. Man, she passed out, and boy, I was ticked because I didn't get any of them. Had strychnine in them. That was the end of them.
Who ended up getting those cookies?
GIs. They just, strychnine, you don't live very long.
So she deliberately killed
Yeah, she did. And then another time, I was working in town there, and I got out of a building, and I didn't know it, and things just caved in and killed a couple guys back on me. And the next day, they had a burial. I didn't go to it, but I've often, those people seemed concerned. Really did. And I know they always said, now, remember their names, you know? Well, you didn't have any pen and pencil. I don't remember anybody's name, but they're over there in a cemetery someplace. So, that's the way it was.
When you went to town, were you in a uniform?
Yeah, well, see, that's something else I was telling I forget who it was here today. When I was, we were probably captured at least 3 weeks, and asked if we'd like a shower. Well, who wouldn't want a shower? We hadn't had any for probably over a month. And well, just lay your clothes there and we'll wash them for you. I laid this out, my dog tags, my pay book, my billfold, and hid them someplace, I don't know. And when you came back, you had your choice. You pick out a pair of French pants, a Polish jacket, and wooden shoes. And I always said, see, that was somewhere around the middle of November. And then you had Germans dressed as GIs with dog tags and pay books up in the Battle of the Bulge. They'd get up around a bunch of guys and then shoot them, Americans. They were wearing our clothes. And probably a bunch here and a bunch there. They got their clothes and dressed as GIs, and that's the way it was.
For your duration of your capture, then you were wearing other than U.S. uniforms?
No, we had that. And see, that was in November, and then they finally, Red Cross finally got us shoes, and I I think it was March. Regular shoes. Other than that, they're darn cold. Had just a little square rag and wooden shoes.
How many of the of your able company, the ones that were captured in the Vosges, how many of them finally made it to captivity?
See, I don't know. I don't know.
Was your family notified
Yep.
that you were?
I've got the telegram, and then also I have a telegram. My mom kept all that stuff.
Did she ever share with you what the family went through when they got this news?
No, not really, but I can imagine what it was like. Because when I was missing, how do you know I was dead or what? I also have a card that I wrote from prison camp. I have that somewhere at home, don't
So if you were
I?
able
I got one card at home.
Did they allow you to write that?
Just a postcard, yeah.
We're getting close to the end of the tape, so I'll ask some fill-in questions about the your current your POW experience. How did you eventually get to the camps? You said you were walking.
Well, we walked a lot of it, and one I never will forget, I haven't seen any since, have like a 1.5-ton truck, you know what I'm talking about? We would stop and they'd get a couple of us out with a guard and go out in the woods and pick up dry wood, and they put that dry wood in the back of the cab, and that fueled that. See, you don't see anything like that, but I know they just barely make it up the hills, and we'd walk.
What was your impression of the? I guess you, at the time you were in the prison camp. What was your opinion of the German military because of your capture? What do you think about them?
Well, you were bitter, I'm sure. And I remember probably in March we saw the first jets go over. Wondered what the dickens that could be, because they were fast, and that was German jets before we had jets, I think.
Was there any concern that you'd ever be released?
Never any doubt in my mind. No.
Why so?
Because I just know we'd do it. You could tell at times the guards. I was on the walk when they called on the walk. I walked from the camp to the Czech border. Now we're talking probably 75 or 100 miles. And we'd stay in barns out in the country at night with guards.
Why were you being moved?
Because the camp was full. They moved us out. That's the only reason I know. Then the hardest thing to do is when a P-51 peeled off to strafe that column of guys walking down the road, is to make everybody stay on the road and wave. And then they got knowing where we were, because when they made it out, they'd and bank, and you could see them wave, and they'd leave. They knew then where we were. Other than that, they'd cut loose. By the time everybody runs, see, that'd be Germans running. But it was hard not to run, and sometimes they'd blast into a few of them.
Whenever that occurred and you stayed to wave, did the German guards run?
They were off the road.
What was it about the guards that made you think that we were winning?
Well, I worked in Munich at a hospital. A German lieutenant talked perfect English, and he knew what was going on. You could tell it.
Okay. Mr. Hilty, we just left off with you talking to a German officer in Munich, I believe.
Yeah, at a hospital.
A hospital. How did your captivity end?
I was on the march, like I said. They called it on the march. We was walking, and we went from, well, if you had the map, you could see it from Moosburg, which is probably, they call it kilometers, that was 35 mile. See, we would get up at dark and come home at dark, or our planes was straight for our train we ran. Anyway, we went below Augsburg. We were at the Czech border, a little German town of Ettrigen. And that's where I got liberated by the 10th Arbor.
Can you tell us that experience?
Well, we real early in the morning, we were still in the barn and firing away, and our guards were gone, and in rolled the GIs and tanks.
What did you all do when you saw the 10th come up?
Well, of course you were happy, and of course you had some guy in a truck wanted to know if I wanted to ride, and I jumped in and rode with him. We went back, and I don't remember where, but I do remember an MP from a little town close to us, village, smaller than ours yet. Name was Doyle Sarber, which became sheriff for I don't know how many terms in a Mercer County, they call it. Said, I've got stuff I can't send home. Will you take it home for me? And I took it home to his wife. Pictures that was illegal. No, a lot of that stuff got home that way.
What was the I mean, sorry, not what was. When were you liberated? About what month and day?
Well, it was about the 27th or 8th of April. Right at the end of April, 45. Because I was home the 2nd of June.
How were you able to get home so quickly?
But, well, that was the scary part. They had old C-47s landing out in fields, not runways, fields. And they would... They wanted 27, but they put 29 of us on because most of us were thinner than we should be. But I never have forgot one just ahead of us. He was veering off a little bit, and he just flipped and blew up, and we took off and went to La Havre, France. But then this is the scary part of it. The co-pilot, they were older guys. We were always assuming they were old enough that they were in the ferrying service, would fly planes from the United States to Britain for the regular bunch. This older guy's done this on the side, because this one guy came back with a bottle and said, have a drink. Boy, he's so drunk he couldn't hardly stand up. And we got La Havre, France, and landed, and man, he swung that thing around. You could see sparks flying out of the wingtip. He said, get out, because we got a date to Piccadilly in London. We got to get going. I never forgot that. And then we took a Liberty ship. We were the first load of XPOWs into Boston Harbor from there. And I can't find the name of that ship.
What were you thinking when you entered Boston Harbor?
Glad to get out, and I don't think there's a guy that didn't bend down and kiss the pavement. Thank you for being home.
Where were you when you heard the war in Europe was over?
That they said about then. I heard pros and cons on that, but all I know is the boat captain said the war's over. I hope the submariners know it because we're going on our own to Boston Harbor. And that's the way it happened.
What was your homecoming like when you got home to see your parents?
Oh, no, it isn't. We done our own partying because everybody came. Back then, just about every guy could walk was in. So we just partied for years. Never stopped partying.
You mentioned your brother was in the service too.
Yeah, he was in the Pacific, in the medics.
How did he do?
All right, yeah, he was just an enlisted man in the medics, and when he got out, he was a second lieutenant.
Have you had a chance to, when you got back, did you talk to him about his service, and did he talk to you about yours?
Not a whole lot. He got out, got to come home when I got home, but I really never talked that much about it. We were always going to go together when he retired, and that never happened because he died when he was 80, and he was 6 years older than me. He'd be 91 now. Cancer bug.
You mentioned a lot of your siblings have passed away, or your brothers and sisters.
Well, I had 2 sisters and a brother, and they're all gone. Yeah.
When you were released, you mentioned or liberated. You mentioned that you were a lot skinnier than you normally were. How heavy were you?
I don't know, because I'll tell you one thing. When we came home, the lowest rank, you know what I'm talking about, KP. The lowest rank full KP was a major. From colonel, lieutenant colonels, and majors pulled KP. That way they had what they wanted to eat. And they fixed our food for us, the enlisted men. And if one wanted to get out of it, they said they never got below a major. That were all ex-POWs.
As a result of your captivity, did you have any long-lasting problems from that?
My wife straightened me out. No, I drank terrible. And she says that's probably because of that. I don't know. I just did. I drank a fifth every day, and then I went to the bar after that. I ran out.
Well, as you had referred.
And we were married in November and Christmas time. She missed her time and put her arms around me and cried, and I've never had over a buzz on since. And don't tell me you can't quit if you want to, because something told me, Joe, it's time to grow up, and I've got a good one.
That's great. That was.
She never said a word to me. Did you?
Well, tell us about how you met your wife.
This is not true, but it sounds true. She lives in a small community where Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon, that was his hometown. That's where she born and raised. And the day after Thanksgiving, I went through that town, and there was this little girl hippity hopping down the sidewalk with her doll baby under her arm. I rolled the window down and said, "Honey, when you grow up, you look me up." So 8 years later, she went to work at the same place I was working, and next thing, 56 years ago, last Valentine's Day, we had our first date, and we're still here. And had a good marriage, haven't we? Now, how does that sound? But it is not true. But she was 10 and a half years old, and I was 21. And really 8 years later, from that town, she did come, and we started going together and got married. She was 19, I was 29.
Tell us about your, that's a good story. Tell us about your children. You mentioned
we have three children, a boy and a girl and a boy. And our oldest son careered the Navy for 22 years and said it would be a cold day when you see me ever come home to this hick town. Well, he lives about 2 miles from us. And he said, it's so safe, Dad, I wouldn't want to live anyplace else. Our daughter, she's married and has 2 girls. And one's in Dallas and the other one's up in Columbus, Ohio. One in Dallas is, I think, a manager for Liberty Mutual Insurance. And the other one is a occupational therapist, and that's our daughter. And then our youngest son, he lives about a half a mile from us, and he works for the county. His wife is a marketing agent for a retirement area. And they have 2 kids, a son and a daughter. The girl works with Down syndrome children from 18 to 40. That's her job. And then our grandson's bound determined to be a doctor. We'll see. That's pretty well the family.
What are the names of your children?
Well, Tim or Timothy, Michelle, and Kenneth.
Have you had an opportunity to tell your children about your wartime experiences?
Not really, because I never talked about it, did I? No, they've read, and I would have liked to brought somebody along, but if I didn't bring one, I need to bring you all, because we're that close. I see, with our 2 sons, one's a half a mile, and one's about 2.5. Our daughter's probably 20 miles. So every birthday and every holiday we get together, and not many families get to do that.
Your grandchildren, what are their names?
Alicia. I'm not sure the last names. Alicia, Roberta, that's from our daughter. Our oldest son don't have any. And our youngest son has Joe, named after me, and Erica.
Have your grandchildren heard your story?
Not really. They pretty well, I guess. They've read the book, and I used to talk at school when Erica and Joe would hear it. But that's pretty well it.
Earlier, when we were doing the initial meeting, you mentioned it was difficult for you to talk about your POW experience. What made
I don't know. I joined the ex-POW club, and you can talk to somebody's experienced the same thing. And then the next thing, 2 or 3 schools asked me to talk to the kids a little bit. That loosened me up. And the worst one I got into is a gal talked me in. She taught hairdressing, or whatever you call that, and said there's only about 8 or 10 of us. Geez, I got there and there was 500, and I didn't know what to do. But I got through it all right.
What do people come up to you after and talk to you about that, or make comments or give you comments and remarks about it?
Oh, some, don't they? A little bit, yeah. It's
What do they commonly ask you or tell you?
thanks for being there for us. More so now than they had, because see, you probably went for 40 years and you never even heard of it. Nobody said anything. Then all once, that's where I can't figure out why it's such a big issue. There's a lot of guys didn't come home. To me, they're the heroes. But I got home, and I'll wake up and give her a kiss and see another day in paradise.
That's a good way to look at that.
Yep.
When you talk to the children at schools, what do you tell them about your wartime experience?
Well, the last few years they don't even ask you because they're more interested in having the recruiters there trying to recruit the boys. To me, it's a bunch of hooey. It's all right, but there isn't much said anymore. The younger kids, I'm talking the first 4 or 5 grades of school, they were really sincere and asking a lot of questions, where the older kids, they listened. And, well, like for example, there's a small little town about 15 miles from us. Our undertaker's daughter was a teacher there. She said, would you come and talk to my 7th grade class? Well, that one year I talked to them, and those kids, she had to break them off. The next year, I walked in and she said, Joe, this is different. They wouldn't ask a thing. She said, from one year to the next, there was that much difference in her students.
What kind of questions did they ask you?
Oh, everything. And that's what would loosen you up. Because when they ask you, you'd try to answer the best you could, you know. And things that, maybe you'd forgot about, but maybe you haven't. Jog your memory.
After coming back and to the States and getting married, what did you do for your employment career?
Well, right after we was married, I took up tool and die, toolmaker. And I had done job shops for years, and then I ended up at Ford Motor Company.
What did you do for the Ford Motor Company?
Toolmaker. Help. Well, like I'd come up with a new motor, you'd help develop it until they build it.
When were you with the Ford Motor Company?
I retired 23 years. It'll be in 23rd of December. It'll be 23 years.
Since retiring, what kind of activities do you normally besides?
All we do is go. If you were around our telephone, don't you ever stay home.
You like a lot of traveling?
A fair amount, yeah. Yeah, like she will take a cruise. Huh? Say it.
Dancing.
Huh?
Dancing.
Oh yeah, we used to dance a lot. And every weekend. Friday night, she's talking about when I was still working. Dance Friday night, get home about 1 o'clock, go to at 5 and get off at 3:30 and go and dance till midnight and get off and go back in at 5 and get off and go back on Sunday and then dance.
What kind of dancing?
Polka at that time.
What do you like to dance to now?
Just more of the slow stuff. I had trouble with my back and my knee, and we'll have to try it again one of these days. If I can get her in shape. Because she don't hold out very good. How do you?
I think you've had the experience of talking to the future generations in your school's speech, but you also have that opportunity with this videotape to address future generations. What would you like to tell them about your experience in the war? What would you like them to learn from your experience?
My experience in the war, if we can keep from having a war, please don't have a war. Because it's scary the way our country's about broke. And you want me to say how I really feel?
If you're comfortable.
I know. I'm comfortable because I heard a guy on TV, and I'm not talking politics at all, but he said they're trying to take away our buck. They want us to go euro. And he said the United States is going to have to start balancing our budgets. We can't keep overspending that much. And to him, we better get out of Iraq and Afghanistan and out of Europe. Let them take care of themselves, and we'll take care of ourselves. But we can't keep overspending so much. And now, right or wrong, I've thought a lot about that. Now, I just heard that about a week ago. And I don't even know who the guy was that said it. So I say I'm not talking politics. That's just, and it made sense. Why do we have to protect the world? Other than oil, money, and the very wealthy handling their holdings, I guess you'd say. I don't know. Maybe that's the wrong way to look at it, but it's something to think about.
How would you differentiate the current war from World War II that you participated in?
Oh, in ways it's worse. You got a lot better chance of making it. But then some of these guys that, oh my, the arms and legs off and burns, and that they wouldn't have had a chance. Back in my area, they just died, and they can bring some of them out of them, and then some of them, it's sad to think the way they look. I don't know. It's sad, but it's a big difference.
If you had any message for your grandchildren and great-grandchildren, what would you like them to know? What would you like to tell them? Your future grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
Well, about the only thing I told them, I don't know what's going to happen with whatever's going on, but I always told them, even my own kids, if you can find something you like to do and you can make a comfortable living at it and you're happy, you've got the world. And I'll always believe that. If you can do something that you're happy doing and can make a comfortable living, you've got it made.
Your wife mentioned that you were interviewed for a book, Surviving World War II.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that experience in your contribution to that book? What was that?
Oh, she just interviewed me and asked me different things that happened, and I think we've gone through a fair amount of it, haven't we? That was probably 20, 25 years ago.
Oh, it was quite a while ago.
Oh, yeah.
What was, at that time, being 20, 25 years ago, how was that your story received back then? Did you
Oh,
receive
there
it?
was several people come up and thank me for this or that. Because she sold a lot of books, didn't she?
And her name again was?
Surviving World War II.
What the author's name?
Oh, Glenna Maxstroth.
Glenna Maxstroth. Okay. We're getting close to the end of the interview. We've covered a lot of areas, and I appreciate you sharing about your prisoner of war experience. Do you have anything else you'd like to add to the oral history?
No, not really, other than I can't thank them enough. I'm glad and honored to be here with this group.
You'll have a chance to tomorrow evening. There's a banquet to get to see meet the other the reunion guests.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of friends that came over to this interview? The reunion?
I don't know where I'll know any of them. See, we have a Midwest chapter in the Midwest, and there's a couple different ones from that was in the 36th that would come up from Texas. If I happen to see them, I think I'd remember them. But that's been, 4 or 5 years since we've seen them. See, they may be here and they may not.
Great. If there's no more other questions, on behalf of the Hanashi Oral History Program and the Go for Broke National Education Center, I'd like to thank you and your wife for being with us for the interview.
Okay, well, thank you.
Your time, and we finished before we went too late.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, yeah.
Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.